Hello and welcome to Talking Pictures, a podcast where we discuss the movies and TV shows we've been watching. I'm your host David, and joined with me as always my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you?
David, I love this movie.
Okay, so there's no... That's it for the podcast. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks. If you'd like to give us 5 stars for this episode, please do. And
you gave this movie 5 stars, so give this podcast 5 stars.
I'll give it a 6 if I could.
So we're here today to talk about the newest Sony Spiderman movie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which released yesterday. We've had just a day to sit on it, and just your quick general thoughts on the film.
Oh, yeah, should I repeat myself? Are you not listening to me?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. David, what do you want me to say? Is that, do the people want to hear what we have to say to think whether they want to go see it?
No, I think that this is, as we have been previously, we should just do spoiler, or we should just talk.
This is definitely a spoiler discussion.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen this movie, go out and see it, come back, and just listen to us ramble on. Hopefully you like it as much as we did.
What I liked about this movie, heavy emphasis on the animation style and the diverse selection of different animated styles. So we've got a canvas painting in Gwen Stacy's universe. We have a Lego sequence. We have a live action sequence. I don't think too many other differ from Miles Morales' universe to Miguel O'Hara's universe. I think maybe there was I think there was not that much of a difference either in the India. Mumbattan is what they... Mumbattan. I don't think there's much of a difference there.
A slightly different drawn art style, but very much... if you had seen Miles... When Miles was in it, it was fine. It didn't look too far off of his own universe.
Yeah. Whereas if they went to Spider-Punk's universe, Hobie, everyone would just be completely different. Just paper cuttings. Every time we cut to a new shot of the character still in the scene, they would just look completely different. Hobie, that was Hobie throughout the entire...
He's got that like 70s/80s punk rocker. Yeah. That kind of...
his guitar is just always within the paper cutout.
Exactly, and everything, he's almost paper cutout. It's as if they took the comics, the Spider-Punk comics, and literally with a knife cut him out and pasted him in the movie. Yeah. It felt like that, and every shot with him was a slightly different colour scheme or different... I don't know, it's just...
We're not very articulate in our vocal cords when it comes to describing cartoons.
Art styles. Particular art styles and all, yeah.
But it's... the main one that is, of course, Miles Morales. That's the ones... it's very, it feels like every couple of 24 frames... There's a couple of frames missing because of the speed of it, and it's so fast moving. It's so quickly edited together, so it can be sometimes hard to follow. It can be even sometimes hard to follow the dialogue because that's Phil Lord and Chris Miller's style of humor.
It definitely feels like in this one, it's so quick. You really have to be on watching it. You have to be really almost scanning the frame to just make sure you're not missing anything. But then there's these moments of these big huge wide shots of a city, and then in the corner are the characters, and you're just kind of almost where should I be looking, and you're I'm looking at this huge vista, and off in the corner are Miles and his dad, or Miles and Gwen.
That one with Miles and Gwen where they're sitting upside down, that's even with how they panned the camera, so to speak, of Gwen walking on the edge, underneath it, upside down, tying her hair up, shooting the webs to the floor to sit herself down, but she's upside down. The way they panned that camera to it was great. And Miles Morales, he looks great. Everyone looks great. And I was just in awe of it. I was in awe of all of it. And as the movie progressed, it really did feel cinematic. The humour kept on coming and coming. But I want to get into this later, but some of the characters are... The roles they play, even though small, it's very... I can't articulate any other more words. It's a good movie. It's a great movie. I want to stop talking about it. I want to know what you have to say.
I was afraid because the first movie, when it came out, Into the Spider-Verse, when the initial trailer came out, I was like, I don't think that's for me. I don't really like it. And I remember seeing it after college one day. I was just in my hometown and I had like 2 hours to kill. I was like, I'm just gonna go cinema. What's on? Oh, this Spider-Man movie. Sure, I was probably gonna see it eventually. And then I sat down and watched it and I was like, whoa, that was so much better. I had zero expectations going into it, and so my mind was kind of blown with it, especially with that, like the art styles changing of like, you know, Spider-Ham and Spider-Noir, and just like it broke the mold in terms of like animation. I think that a lot of animated projects are coming out now inspired by Spider-Verse, the original one.
Yeah, especially the TMNT one,
Puss in Boots.
Yeah,
I feel like everyone's kind of looking at that and going, oh, this could be the next animation style of like, let's lean into animation.
Even Disney, their new upcoming Disney princess movie, Wish, is sort of taking a similar approach.
Yeah.
I don't want everything to be like that.
No.
You know, I wouldn't mind a 2D animated movie to come back once in a while.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't think that's due to happen. I don't know, maybe this is the next step to get away from the big-eyed size for the reasonably sized head, 3D type of models where it's very ovally, and because I'm just comparing the Disney movies because like look at it and characters and the people in the movies like Moana and Frozen and
definitely you could definitely put a Disney movie up against a DreamWorks movie and you can tell the difference.
Yeah, even a Pixar movie like the characters in Up, like is is Carl Fredricksen gonna be the same size as Elsa in Frozen, or is it gonna be like half the size? It's all different. But I like in this one there's a sense of consistency, like everyone's sort of the same height level, some taller of course, but you know just different height sizes. But yeah, it's they didn't pull punches with the different animated styles. I thought they were gonna like go beyond what my expectations were, like having an entire sequence be just 2D. And I thought maybe we were gonna have a sequence of live action. We didn't get that, but we did get elements of live action.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't go full live action though, because I think that the story is served better animated.
It lends itself to it quite a lot. Even characters, some certain characters, it's like this character is perfect for animation, and the canvas, I suppose, universe, the canvas painting of Gwen Stacy's universe, we got used to it, but then it stood out again at the very end when I'm glad they did the scene. I didn't think they were going to have her come back to face him again and resolve this issue with her father. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought that was just going to be an outstanding thing, maybe saved for the next movie as a throwaway thing. But no, when the scene came, I dug it. I dug it. And every time we cut back to the father, the whole background is different. It goes from like soft pink to a bit of a yellow or crayon type, and then it can be just black and white in a way. It's so different, and the characters, it's like half of their form, their shape as their body is like morphed into like the stillness of the background, but some part of their body is still like moving. It's mad to see we have this all in one movie. You think we get this in like an 8-episode 10-minute anthology type of thing
leading up to before the Spider-Verse or something. Like here's 10 minutes from Gwen's
we keep
universe,
coming back to it,
10 minutes from Peter B. Parker's,
and it didn't stop. It didn't start right away. When Gwen gets back to her universe, she's still like in her natural or natural as in usual way we as the audience see her, which is the same animated style as Miles Morales and Peter B. Parker. But as the minutes pass by and we're still with her, it's like she blends back into what she truly comes across in her universe. Like her true form, her true colours, her... yeah, that's funny.
I did feel like her universe was so like abstract. Like it was almost like the world around her was influenced by the emotions of people in the scene.
Oh, did you write that down?
No, but like there was like at the beginning when she's giving her backstory and how her Peter died, and then she's in her room and it's kind of a dark room and it's cutting back and forth between her and her dad and the colours are changing, and then when he asks for a hug and she runs up to him and immediately from him the room brightens and it like comes this like really nice warm yellow colour, and it's like, oh, that's the emotion they're feeling. The love between them is just brightening the whole space around them. And then when at the end when she comes back and they have that confrontation moment, it becomes so abstract. Like it is just the apartment and it's in darkness because he's there by himself and he's missing his daughter and it's so dark. And then when they're having the conversation, it's like they're in a white void with a couple of different shapes, and it's almost like they don't know how they should feel, either of them. They don't know, like, oh, how are they feeling compared to me? Where's this conversation leading? What's going to come from this? And that's represented by the background. Like their emotions fuel the world around them, which I thought was it was so abstract, but it was so like deliberate. I thought it was brilliant.
It's art. It's proper
art. It was genuinely art. Yeah. Anyone that says animation movies are for kids like has not ever looked at these in the lens of this is art, and this is by far, like, she is the most, I think, artistic anyway, in terms of, like, she's, like, obviously a drummer, she's the most creative maybe, and so she comes from that world of, like, artistic and creativity.
I think it might be my favourite universe.
Definitely, so far.
But not one I don't know if I think it could be too much for such a long period of time, which it was my favourite to see. It was the best. It's like the Oscar winner.
Yeah, in terms of what we saw, it was perfect. I didn't need to see any more in her universe.
Yeah, I think too much of it can be like bad for you, but it wouldn't be bad. It would be just too distracting. Like you're not really following the story. Like if they had an action sequence in that scene, and they did, but I think that sort of it dissolved a little bit with Jessica Drew and Miguel O'Hara fighting the Renaissance vulture. Even he was a 2D, I think, was he?
He was 2D, yeah, he was, yeah.
Yeah, so that was it wasn't distracting because I think the all these conflicting animated styles converging together in one scene made it easier to follow. Whereas if Gwen Stacy was just fighting foes in her universe, I think the whole thing, you're not watching a movie with this element of the storyline flowing. You're just watching a music video, a heavily stylized music video, or just a piece of art. So that's what I mean by saying too much can be too much. And I like George Stacy. I liked her father, like that. Even that last scene, parenting, kicks the can. Like, I feel like he's gonna clean up the apartment now for when she gets back.
Yeah,
like he genuinely feels happy to have her back. It was good. I'm glad they resolved that storyline element.
I don't know about you, but it felt like this movie when it started. I was like, oh, is this actually Gwen's movie? Like, is this because it starts with her
almost for like a good 25 minutes?
Yeah, I felt like the first one was obviously Miles' story, and I felt like they kind of tricked us here. This is going to be Gwen's story, similar to how maybe Guardians of the Galaxy was Peter's story, but then 3 was Rocket's.
Yeah. So
I thought we were going to be like, oh, Gwen might be our main character here, and we've been tricked into thinking it's Miles, and Miles played a bit more of a supporting role to her.
Do you know what I thought it was? I thought that what Gwen Stacy was in this movie was what Peter B. Parker was in the last one. I thought, because he was introduced in it, of course it was the Chris Pine one, with the blonde hair, and the better successful one who ended up dying. Even his role is a factor in this movie, still continued. His death, essentially. But, Peter B. Parker, I'm cutting out the B, he's Peter Parker, right? He's an older Peter Parker. In this movie, he's a father now, and he is not the type of guy willing to sacrifice himself so easily like he was just about at the end of the last one.
Yeah, he'd given up.
Yeah,
at the end of the last one.
He wasn't so enthusiastic about being Spider-Man. He was a bit reserved. He was a bit like he was touch and go on not wanting to lead a successful life as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker, whereas now I feel like that has been brought back into him, and he says it himself to Miles Morales, and I like that he's still a genuine friend to Miles Morales. He was the mentor character, but I can't even really look at him like that. He's a bit too silly to be that mentor character. He's wearing the pink robe the whole time. He's carrying the baby. There's this child abuse, and
I do see him more as a friend to this Miles anyway, because of the fact that he has that moment where Miles is on the run and he says, "You're the reason I became a father, because I wanted to have a kid and hoped that they would turn out like you."
Yeah.
Do you know that's such a friendly thing to say? Like, you wouldn't really get that in many, like, you know, mentor-student relationships. You would admit that.
He's like 20 years at least older than him, something like that, and he had a smaller role in this, but I liked what they were doing with him. Even that scene where, you know, Mary Jane is giving that, you know, that monologue talking about, you know, being Spider-Man but also being a father, and, you know, God, I can never remember these lines and what they were talking about, but I liked what they were doing, and I thought, you know, it was the end of the last one. Peter Parker finally becomes Spider-Man again, as he was in his youth, as we've seen in the other live-action Spider-Man movies. Whereas in this one, at the end of it, he's realising that he doesn't need to be the opposite of himself. The opposite being Miguel O'Hara. I love seeing those two guys in the same screen, in the same frame. I'm looking at the angel and the devil here of what a Spider-Man should be. I like that, you know, Peter Parker he's not the leader. Who established the lobby, the Spider Verse program. Miguel did that. He's in more capable hands, but he is going about it the wrong way, and he will leave you for dead if for the greater good. Call for it. Whereas
he's very much the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Like, he will just, if you're not worth it, you're gone.
Yeah, and I really did like the contrast between those two characters together. It's like Peter Parker is fine. I feel like at the end of it, Peter Parker's had enough of Miguel influence over him on how to be Spider-Man, and Peter is he was not I think he can only do so much to pass his influence onto Miguel to, like, you know, warm him down a little bit. Like, you know, when his baby was crawling all over him, like he was just, you know, it wasn't like, get this baby off me or anything like that. He was just like, you know, he's sulking all the time. He's brooding. He's not funny.
No,
he's just a dickhead, and he's an asshole. And
he's lost. But that's the thing. I think he's, because of what he's lost, I think that maybe he does come from, it's good intentions where it comes from, because he's lost it. He doesn't want anyone else to have to lose anything more than they need to. Yeah, if that makes sense. Because
needs a many, needs a few.
Yeah, he lost his universe, so he knows that pain. So he set up this society to make sure that things happen in the right time, in the right place, to make sure that no one loses anything more than they need to.
Was it his universe? Because his version died in that universe, and he stepped in, but him stepping in caused that anomaly.
No, but he lost the family that he never had, because he had moved from one universe to the next and took over a spot where...
But that wasn't his universe.
No, but it was his new family.
Yeah.
So he lost that family, and he had taken over a variant of himself.
Yeah.
So in a way, like, he could have gone back to his original universe.
Oh, what is that? Where is his original universe? Was that where the lobby is taking place, or is that just
maybe so? Yeah,
I don't know for sure.
I feel like in the comics he does come from Nueva York, which is where that Spider Society was set up.
That's where I think then. There's still more mystery to him. It's like, is he even supposed to be a Spider-Man? Is he, like, you know, because there's so many Peter Parkers and variations and deviations of Peter Parkers, and something Parker or a Ben something, or you know, like.
Well, that was actually something I really liked, is that they leaned quite heavily. I felt, they maybe didn't lead into it. It may not have been doing this on purpose, but the fact that we go, I'd say, probably about half the movie before we're introduced to a Spider-Man whose name is Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Because we're introduced to, well, obviously we've met them in previous movies. We have Gwen, Miguel, Jessica, Miles,
Pavital,
yeah,
Spider-Man in India.
Yeah. Hobie, and then finally
Peter Parker.
And I think that it was really cool the way that they're pushing this idea. Yeah, this opportunity to kind of to make people realize Spider-Man is the hero. You don't have to be Peter Parker to be Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. You know, it's just the hero, and anyone could fill those shoes in any universe. And I think that like there was a kid running around in our screening, and he was like, you know, getting up to go toilet, and he was fully dressed as Miles Morales. He was dressed as Spider-Man, but not like the traditional red and blue Spider-Man. He was Miles Spider-Man. So I think that that's really good to show people that, you know, and kids, that Spider-Man isn't just, you know, Peter Parker. It's anyone. Anyone can be Spider-Man. I thought that was brilliant. And the fact that it's like half the movie before we're introduced to Peter Parker, who we've met, and then, you know, variations, and then, as I said, like Ben Reilly and like literally every other
dinosaur.
Peter Parker. Then there's Lego Spider-Man. There's Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man. There's like Spider-Man from the 1970s cartoon. And then in that Spider Society, this fantastic scene where we're explained to like the real, like the plot. We finally find out what's going on, where every Spider-Man has to go through certain events, otherwise they break the canon. They break the web that binds all Spider-Men, and they can lose their universe. And we see that, like, you lose like your Uncle Ben, or you lose a captain.
Essentially, that's what happens. You like, losing your uncle is not enough. Like, you do have to lose a captain, which I never think was really introduced as a, you know, I'm doing the rabbit fingers with my hands here, as a necessity, because, you know, when you watch a Spider-Man movie, any Spider-Man movie, Uncle Ben has to die. You know, that's the given. It's like Batman losing his parents, right?
Yes.
But Captain Stacy dying, or essentially a captain, you know, I don't know if that's a thing in the comics, right? And yes, we had a Captain Stacy die in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and I wonder whether it's a source from the comics or not. It's a storyline I think was first introduced in this movie. You know, yes, it happened before with, you know, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. We had that little archive footage introduced in there, which was great. So that was like, you know, something pulled from the past that can be used to hit home more, you know, and it's something that needs to happen. So a captain of the police force needs to die, and, you know, it was a touch and go there with Gwen's father, who, like, that was something that had to happen, and she was, you know, on the verge of accepting it, but then he quit because she confronted him about it, and, you know, maybe that's how canon can be broken. Like, whether a captain still needs to die or not, I don't know, but it doesn't mean... It could
be someone else, yeah.
But it doesn't need to be the way Miguel O'Hara states it needs to be, which is why we have our core crew, the band, essentially, quite bigger now. Pretty much all the Spider people from the last one, and the Spider people introduced into this one, you know, Spider people who would, you know, have their own character poster, essentially. So Miles' dad is about to be a captain, and it's about him wanting to stop that. But all the Spider people, which, by the way, in the trailer, watching it again and watching it in the movie, is stop Spider-Man, and it just cuts to like 3 different wide shots of like you, like you. That was actually really funny.
That got a big laugh out loud.
It really is. It's like, I'm sorry, did you not watch the trailers? Did you not know that was coming?
Yeah.
But I did. I watched the trailer again before this podcast, and that was funny. That is funny. It is funny, especially knowing what happens.
Yeah.
And I think knowing what happens in terms of the heaviness of the gravity of the situation when it comes to dire situations as well. That hits more when watching the trailers again.
Yeah, I think that like you're saying there, with like everyone knows like, oh, Batman's parents dies or Uncle Ben dies. these are things that like you see in every iteration of Spider-Man, and in this movie it's when they establish it as no, these things need to happen. It gave a purpose as to why we've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
That it's almost like that's the first event that makes you Spider-Man.
Without Uncle Ben, most of us wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
You know, I like that I said most of us. It's like there's a few give and takes here and there, but that's the general gist. But it's not, it's like, Miles Morales is like, we already asked our uncle, isn't that enough? Like, no, it's not. Like, this needs to happen. And
it's almost like those kind of in the Loki series when they like show the timeline and they have those branches that go off, and that they go in and correct it. It's almost like those kind of verging points of like, this needs to happen. These are fixed points, and unfortunately for everyone, it's like Spider-Man losing either his uncle or someone he cares about, or someone in someone he's closely related to.
Yeah.
And then, like you said there, when you go back and watch the trailers and you realise the context for certain scenes, and you're like, Miles has been told, because he's lost his uncle Aaron in the first movie. He comes along and he's been told, certain events, your uncle dying, that is a Spider-Man event, and the captain of the police force not only that. He goes, but that's my dad. And I don't know if anyone else actually in any other Spider-Man has had it be their uncle and their dad, but he can't accept someone saying your dad is going to die and you have to accept that. And then he's like, no, I don't, and he wants to save him. He wants to save his dad. Who wouldn't want to save their dad?
That's quite interesting. I like that point. That is like, no, it's not just my uncle I've lost. You're talking about letting my dad die as well.
Yeah, so and it's whatever. Like, it's one thing to like, in the middle of a battle and he dies, or a building falls on him, he dies, but to have the prior knowledge that he's going to die, you can't sit with that. You couldn't say, if anyone told you like, someone you know is going to die, you'd go out of your way, especially if you're Spider-Man, to help save them. So watching the trailers back and seeing those moments where Peter and Gwen, like, I think Miles says like, you knew, and
I didn't know how to tell you.
Yeah, I didn't know how to tell you.
No, actually, I didn't know. Sorry, that actually wasn't for that. That was for the different thing that I'd like to get into in a minute. But I like how in the moment, like, Miguel's trying to keep him there trapped. Hobie, the guy to break down the fascism,
Spider-Punk,
dictator. Like, I read that his character is from help me pronounce this word, totalitarianism. Essentially, he's come from a world of dictatorship, fascism, all that stuff, and he's the guy to knock it down and break it down. That's why he is what he is. That's why he's like, affect the system, break this down. He tells them to use your hands, break it out. Like, he's fully encouraging them. And for a guy introduced at a point where he's like, you just are come across like a bit of a a bit of a prick, and like, I'm always cool and like telling you what to do. He's like, this guy knows a bit of knowledge over you, as in over Miles. He's a bit of a threat to maybe a potential relationship to Gwen, for Miles, and he's his own guy. He's very he's what I wish I was that guy. Miles would be thinking, but it sort of flipped a bit, for someone who I thought maybe was gonna be. I actually thought maybe, even to the point where he's helping them escape, I thought he had his own agenda too. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he's a villain himself, but no, that's not the case at all. It's quite unique and it's quite different. It's quite general with the Spider-Man in India. The most kick I got out of him was like one of the first things he said. He must love you. I like that was one of the first things that he established. All right, so he's a bit of a not a know-it-all, but he's like I can read people. Like I tend to read people very well. So when you double down on a characteristic of a person and sort of reach that little comedy aspect, it can be good. It can be funny, and just a little quippy moments of Daniel Kaluuya's voice using his English accent. His
accent was so thick. You nearly need subtitles just for him. But I completely agree with you. I think when he's initially introduced, he's kind of mentioned by name a few times,
at least twice,
and Miles is jealous of him because he's kind of presented as like kind of Gwen's boyfriend or someone she's interested in. So then you're kind of hearing about him, and then when he turns up, he's just like this like cool guy who comes in playing guitar. he can just fuck shit up. He goes crazy.
Language.
And then and then he like, you know, turns up and he just is cool, and he drips cool, and he's walking around. He's like, I'm too cool for this. And then you're right, he does kind of come across like, is there something else going on here? But he's just so true to himself, and his way, and
the consistency. It makes sense, and it's who he is, and
he's so anti-establishment that even though he's part of the Spider Society, and it's like the one society where he would be part of because these are people like him, he's still anti-establishment and goes against them because that's who he is as a character. He comes from a universe where the government are the bad guys. Fascism is bad, as it is in our universe, but like it's these moments where he is, you know, everyone's going after Peter and he goes, oh yeah, by the way, I quit, and then he just like walks off. Or they trap Miles in the dome, and like immediately, like Miles is looking around, he looks at Hobie and he goes, remember your palms. Like he's already given them tips on how to break out, because like he had said earlier.
Yeah, like, whereas he said it earlier, and it's like, don't tell me what to do. Like, I can do it myself. And it's like, no, this guy is actually really genuine. He's like that older. He's like that friend to your older brother who's kind of being like a dickhead, but he actually gave me some really solid tips. And he's not there to like, you know, give you a nudgy in the head or anything. He's there to be himself.
Yeah, he doesn't care what anyone else says, and I just thought that was brilliant. And even though he's so part of the Spider-Verse, he's so anti-establishment that even though these people are like him, he's not fucking with it. He's just by himself.
Yeah, he's stood out quite a bit. Yeah, it wasn't my favourite because it took a bit of warming up to it, but he's so he's rare as a character. Yeah, and he's quite original. I think the level of consistency that we've just talked about in the last 3 minutes hit home as how great of a character he was to have. I thought he was just going to be, you know, Spider-Punk, just be the Spider-Man who sings some songs. Yeah. But no, there's so much more ideology to him, which is great. Spider-Man India, he was cool for... No, he wasn't cool. He was just fine for what he was, like...
I thought he was a nice, bright character. Yeah. There's that like sequence where he's like, yeah, no, I wake up, I do this, and he actually has a great life. And he's like, I can balance being Spider-Man and being myself. It's pretty easy. I just thought that was a good contrast to like every other version where Peter Parker just can't seem to balance the two, and he has to choose Spider-Man or his life.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And then even the Spider-Bite, you know, she's a bit... she was operating the machine. She was there as a hologram, whereas True Self was in her own universe. I liked what she could be capable of. A bit of a Cortana, even though there was a Cortana.
Yeah, Lila, I think her name was.
Yeah. I liked her character, and I don't know, did she send him to the wrong universe on purpose, or was she doing a good thing? Why did that happen?
I think the go home machine scans your
spider DNA.
Your spider DNA, and because the spider came from the wrong universe, then that's why he was sent to the other one.
Right.
And we haven't even touched on the villain yet. The main villain.
Oh, well, I just want to get into that moment where Miguel. This moment where Miguel tells Miles that spider was never meant for you. Yes. You were there, and the spider bit you. And your Peter Parker died.
You're an anomaly. You're the mistake.
Everywhere you go, you're the mistake. And for me, that made me... Like, because I'm the type of... Here's something you know about me. You get to know about me right now. It takes a lot, but so little. It takes a lot of thinking, but little execution. At least a little execution to come across for me to fully root for the protagonist and to get behind them and like them in the ranking to be number one. Because you know, a lot of the time, you know, I can root for the supporting characters more, or I can even root for the second antagonist or the foe of the scene. The foe of the scene being Miguel O'Hara. I get where he's coming from, and you know, he's coming, like the way he's coming across. As we mentioned earlier, and I was rooting for him kind of slightly, a little bit. You know, I was enjoying the scene within itself, at the end of the day, I'm rooting for Peter Parker. But when Miguel tells Peter that, sorry, scratch that. When Miguel tells Miles that you were never meant to be Spider-Man, you are a mistake. Everywhere you go is a mistake. You are the anomaly. And Miles is like, no. And he stands up for himself and says, F this, I'm going to do my own thing here. Like, who are you to tell me what I can and can't be? Mm-hmm. I got bit, I had these powers, and I'm trying to do some good. And he's not being selfish and wanting to save his dad. And, it's like someone telling you what you can and can't be. And the way Miguel comes across and telling him that, mm-hmm. it's like an insult upon going on your self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. It's like Spider-Man is a square hole and Miles is a circle, and he's trying to push him through. It's like, you have to be this. It's like, no, I don't. I can be myself.
And that moment maybe I'm gonna do my own thing, and I pulled all your spider people away from the base, and that moment there made me, fuck yeah, Miles. Excuse my language.
He knew what he was doing.
But that made me love Miles Morales so much more now because of that, because he's standing up for himself. No, dude, you are, you do you. It's like it's like holy, like, man, you do what you gotta do.
I think that scene actually kind of, in a way, like, it solidifies maybe how wrong Miguel is as well, because of the fact that he's saying that, like, you were never supposed to be Spider-Man. You're the anomaly. That spider came from a different universe. Because of that, and the Miles that we know, he was never supposed to be Spider-Man. Maybe then he doesn't have to go through these same canon events that the other Spider-Men do. Yeah, he lost his uncle the same way the other Spider-Men did, but is it possible that he doesn't have to lose his dad because he was never supposed to be Spider-Man? I'm doing the bunny ears now as well. He was never supposed to be Spider-Man. But even though he is he still part of that web, and is he still subject to these canon events? Yeah. So I think that's something that they'll explore, because I wouldn't want to see his dad die. I wouldn't. I really like his dad.
His parents really played an integral role in this movie, mm-hmm. more so, especially than the last one. I loved his parents in this movie. Brian mm-hmm. Terry Henry, of all people.
He's great. Yeah.
He's deadly. I loved his parents. I actually got behind his parents and what they're trying to, get at as mm-hmm. parents. We were teenagers, and you suck as parents, but no, I like what they're doing. That scene with Miles and Spider-Man is talking to Jefferson, and then Miles talking to his mother on the roof, mm-hmm. and but before we talk about, I suppose, the final, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes where he's sent back, do we want to touch on the villain of the movie?
Yeah, I suppose if we're 40 minutes in, we should probably talk about the villain.
The Spot.
The Spot. I don't know about you, but I remember when they announced the Spot was the villain, I was like, oh, that's going to be great. That's going to look so visually interesting in this. Well, obviously with the first Spider-Man movie, it was incredibly visual. Like, it was.
We knew what to anticipate based on the previous animated style in the previous movie.
Yes.
What this character could lend himself to, not just in that form of animation, but also his superpowers. The Spot, interdimensional portals into other worlds. We saw a still image of him, and we saw the guy who voices him, and I knew what his voice would come across. So okay. He's not the main villain though.
No.
He's just gonna be like a side villain. He might be like a secondary antagonist. He might be a joke. I genuinely when he first came along, especially with that first trailer. Yeah. He is played as a joke to begin with. He walks into the convenience store wearing glasses and a jacket and a fisherman's hat. In the real world, you're gonna notice, what the hell is that thing? Mm-hmm. And then he walks in. He's trying to steal an ATM. He's still trying to get used to the portals himself, trying to get it, and the way he's going about it, you're trying to steal my ATM. Technically, it's the bank's ATM. I'm not stealing you. It's like, come on, this is my first time. Don't make this a bad experience for me. And then Spider-Man, and he pushes his hair back as if he has any. He's like, I am the Spot, and I've been waiting for you. I'm your arch nemesis. even how he looks, like he's got long legs, he's got a bit of a gut, he's got a stumpy body, and he's very like, you know, he's leaning against the shelves and the, you know, the bread's coming out of him. Like he's played as a joke. Even the characters in the movie acknowledge him as, you're just a villain of the week, whatever, just pass along, just another day in the life of Spider-Man, this guy. And even even the audience are like, he's a funny guy, he's funny.
Like he's initially defeated by tripping over over his own portals, and he kicked himself into himself.
And I thought that was the end of him.
I thought so too. I thought that, because there's that moment where he's like, oh, I'm in myself, and he kind of goes through one portal. I thought that his head was going to come out of his stomach then, and it was like, oh, that's him gone. Do you know, and he's stuck inside himself, and maybe we'll get a funny post-credit scene of him like, hello, or something like that, you know, just like...
And that's definitely not the route they go. It's quite interesting, really. We see the Lego universe, we see the Venom universe, what else do we see? A 2D animation in France somewhere. So I like the way how he was coming across, and he's a scientist at the end of the day, and he's used his science to it's like he's become obsessed to try to reach for what he thinks he only has left, which is a life of crime, and to be a nemesis of Spider-Man, you know. Even when he was telling them that you made me and what and it's like, it doesn't feel like I'm taking him seriously.
No, because he keeps trying to tell him like, oh, you're my nemesis, and he doesn't have time to hear it. Yeah, he's texting on the phone. He kind of says it maybe 3 or 4 times before we actually find out that, I guess in a way, in the Spot's eyes, they are nemesis, because he is the scientist that he was working on the super collider and brought the spider from universe 42 to their universe, which bit Miles, and then when Miles destroyed the super collider, it inadvertently made him the Spot, so they kind of created each other. So he sees that relationship between them that Miles doesn't, and so because of that, it like pisses him off more, that he's like, I need to be taken seriously. If you're going to ruin my life, I want to be taken seriously.
And it feels like this is not him. He's a scientist. He's like a normal guy, and this is something that's happened to him. And you know, I can. This is not who he's supposed to be. Even if he's supposed to be the Spot, he's not supposed to be the Void. Essentially,
that's his official name.
No, I just
call him that. That's a good name, though.
Yeah, thank you.
The Spot, the Void. Yeah, because it becomes that kind of like demonic.
Yeah,
like when he becomes he puts himself in the super collider, and he's like, he was white with black spots, now he's black with like
white spots, but it's like stringy lines and circles. It's like
he looks almost like a flip book. Like if you just drew like a dark creature on a flip book and you were flipping it the entire time, that's kind of what he looks like.
And he's look, I get it. I think, look, at the end of the day, and just before he went to the super collider, Gwen in Spider-Man India, Spider-Punk, and Miles is like, no, we take you seriously now. We take you seriously, and like it's like you went too far with a kid to bully him. Now he's like. He's become obsessed. He has to do this for himself. But this is not who he is. He's a scientist. He's a regular dude. He's probably like a guy who like just wants to do what he wants to do, and this happens to him, and I feel for the guy, and he's someone I don't want to see die. I want him to like.
That's the thing with Spider-Man, is that they weren't trying to defeat him. They were trying to save him. I think that's like, obviously with I think that was punctuated in like No Way Home, that Peter saves all the villains.
Yeah.
And I think in the previous ones, a lot of the time he was trying to save the villains, and they ended up dying at the end.
It's quite a rare thing for Spider-Man to kill a villain. If a Spider-Man villain dies, it's because of their own accord and their own fault.
Yes. Just quickly thinking.
For Electro in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like how that ended. And I'm glad that movie somewhat retconned, because we got Jamie Foxx back. And he was better for it. Yeah, that retconned.
I wouldn't say it retconned, but like, I think that...
It undid it.
I think that this movie especially like goes to show you that every single Spider-Man that we've seen in any version exists, and it's completely valid and exists within this Spider-Verse.
Miguel O'Hara seems like a Spider-Man who would kill his villains. Didn't he try to kill the Renaissance Vulture?
He tried to bite him, yeah. He's like a vampire as well.
Yeah, that's quite menacing. Mm-hmm. Spoiler note: this ends on a cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. Why does it end on a cliffhanger, David?
So, Miles goes back to his original universe, but as we were saying earlier, he's the machine that sends him back to the wrong universe. So he's glitching in and out, and we reveal that Uncle Aaron is still there. His dad is dead, and he gets knocked out, and he's brought to Uncle Aaron's apartment, and down comes the Prowler, but it's that universe's version of Miles, and we see that in this original universe where he wasn't bitten by the spider, that
and no Spider-Man was bit.
Yeah.
No. There's no Peter Parker or any variant of a person to embody Spider-Man was bit. So there's no Spider-Man. Even when the mother, that whole speech of Miles, coming out telling his mother, "I'm Spider-Man."
Who?
But even then, it's like, I thought this is before we realized this is not his universe. He's walking around in his jacket, and you can see the top of his Spider-Man outfit. Mm-hmm. I thought, all I was thinking, he's going on this tangent speech about trying to tell his mother, and all I'm thinking is, she sees it. She sees the suit. She's gonna go and unzip it, and then she's gonna zip it back up again, or she's gonna be like, "Don't tell your father," or she's gonna be like, "It's okay," or whatever. Mm-hmm. No, that's not what we get. Who? It's like, oh, they're just playing off that really heartfelt, touching speech as a bit of a joke. Who's Spider-Man? I suppose did we, well, I did any analysis and backtracking that, but she knows who Spider-Man is. Mm-hmm. Of course she knows who Spider-Man is. Yeah, the father knows, but maybe this is the mother. She's like always in her own world. She's busy. She's like, oh, who's that again? It's like, maybe a joke to play on that Miles Morales is not taken seriously either as Spider-Man yet. Mm-hmm. But that's not the case.
Or even that she's like, oh, when you say like, oh, don't tell anybody I told you that, and then you're like, oh, tell me what, like, oh, I've just forgotten about it. It's like, oh, I'm Spider-Man. Who? And then like she walks off like, I know you're Spider-Man, but we're not going to talk about it. It's fine. Yeah. That she was doing it like that, but
I thought maybe something like that, but even then I didn't pay attention. Like, you change your hair, and I didn't. All I thought about that was, oh, I suppose he's just been through the whirlwind of different universes. I'm sure maybe greased his hair a bit. That's what I thought.
There's another little thing if you go back, because I noticed it. I knew straight away because I saw the screen flash 42, so I knew as soon as he went back, I knew he was in a different universe. But when it cuts between him and Gwen outside, and it's kind of like, oh, Gwen's listening. Yeah. It's raining where Gwen is, and it's not raining in the room.
Oh, that is so good.
If you look outside, it's not raining at all.
And it got me. Mm-hmm. It got me. And he's glitching. And who the hell's walking through this door? You don't know the dark menace of Mahershala Ali. Mm-hmm. Is Uncle Aaron. You change it. You undid your dreadlocks or whatever. Even then, I didn't really pay attention as to what they meant by that. I was just, what's going on here? Like, that's all I was like, what's going on here? It's like the music in the background, that of the what was that thing on the drum set? That
cymbal, is it? Or
yeah, that music coming on too. And then, okay, so Uncle Aaron's looking after his brother's wife, and he's still who he is, even worse. They go to the roof in New York. No Spider-Man equals mayhem. Mm-hmm. And it's Miles Morales is just taken aback to see the mural of his father dead. And he's sitting down. And over his shoulder is sitting his uncle. And he's just silhouette. The art style, it felt like a graphic novel in a way. It felt a bit uneasy. And it felt very... This is, you get the hell out of there right now. You're not supposed to be there. Get out. It's like it's a trap. They were onto him. Mm-hmm. They knew because he came to knock him out, and then it was revealed. He's trying to appease to him his uncle, and the
uncle's not in charge, really, is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because what do you think that universe would have been like had the spider bit that Miles? Because I still don't think that he would have become Spider-Man. He would have had spider powers. But I think that he's kind of influenced by his uncle that he would have still turned to a life of crime. He just would have had the powers. He wouldn't be Spider-Man.
I don't know, like, when did his father die?
Yeah, like,
and that's the main thing.
Maybe is it for the best that Spider bit our Miles?
Or maybe was it supposed to be a Peter Parker instead? Is Peter Parker alive in that universe? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, and Miles Morales is now the Prowler in that universe,
and our Miles doesn't have a way of getting out of that universe because he doesn't have a interdimensional.
But he's about to break out of the chain.
About to break out, and he has the other Spider team coming for him.
It's like everyone from the last one and everyone in this one. This is the band: Spider-Gwen, Peter B. Parker, Hobie, Spider-Man India, Spider-Bite, Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker, Spider-Pig, Spider-Man.
Everyone's coming to help. Yeah,
this is like I never felt like a middle chapter or a chapter before the final chapter like I have since Infinity War coming up to Endgame.
Yeah,
this felt very much like a middle chapter in a trilogy, and I took it all in, and I'm trying to think what I didn't like about it, and I really didn't like anything about it. That's why I give it 5 stars. I mean, like, if I like something so much, if it does everything right, if it did a good job, and if it gets itself to be very creative in the form of its animation, like, come on, dude. Why does this movie not deserve 5 stars? And this movie deserves everything it gets. And it's in such great hands. It took 3 directors to do this movie. 3 directors.
And an incredible team of artists. I think that they
let's give a shout out to the artists. I don't know any of your names, but I hope you got very well paid for it, and I feel bad for your working hours.
I felt I similar to you, like, it works so well as like a middle piece to a trilogy.
Yeah,
it kind of reminded me a little bit of Back to the Future in a way. That, like, the first one you could kind of watch as its own
movie. Yeah, same with this first one.
And then part 2 is like it expands on the first. Like, we have like the Spot being the guy that he threw a bagel at in the first one.
Yeah.
And it just expands on a lot of things from the first movie, and then leaves on an interesting cliffhanger that makes you like, oh, I want to watch the third one right now, which is the same as Back to the Future 2. And hopefully then 3 will wrap it all up nicely. So I think that it's a shame that we have to wait, but I'm glad we only have to wait a year.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. Let this sink in. I don't mind waiting a year. I don't want it to get pushed and delayed.
I hope not. This one was delayed from October 2022 to June of 2023. So about 8 months actually.
Yeah, and look, that flew by. We had plenty of other movies at the end of that last year and the start of this year. Like, man, just like that, time will fly.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully we'll get Nicolas Cage to come back to voice Noir in the third one, hopefully, and I like that. And it's quite interesting to see if this issue where Miles is in is going to be resolved in the first moment of the third one, or if it's going to be a bit prolonged.
Is the first act him in that universe and trying to meet up with the team again?
Yeah. Or will it, and how long will that last? How long until when they reach the spot? Because I feel like by the time they leave to reach the spot, it'll have to be at the end of the first act, the start of the second act. Because all they have to do is just go back to his universe, and the spot has arrived in his universe. But then where does Miguel O'Hara fit into that? You know, Miguel O'Hara is half Mexican, half Irish.
Half Mexican, half Irish, half vampire, half Spider-Man.
It's O'Hara part. I feel you know, represent Ireland. Oh yeah, I'm trying to think on any final thoughts on the.
Well, I thought I thought I'd bring an interesting fact to the table.
Oh, and go on. Give us some facts, David.
So in the Spider Society, when they're going through the room of villains, we get a shot of a live action villain who is Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, playing Miles' uncle, Aaron Davis, the Prowler. The character of Miles Morales was inspired by Donald Glover. So on the TV show Community, there was a scene where think it's the beginning of maybe season 2 or 3, and they're kind of reintroducing the characters, and Donald Glover's character stands up and he's wearing a Spider-Man shirt. And there was a big push online for him to play Spider-Man, because everyone was like, oh, that'd be great, that'd be brilliant. And he never ended up playing Spider-Man, obviously. But a writer at Marvel saw that and goes, oh, that's interesting. What if there was a black Spider-Man? He eventually created Miles Morales. And that was completely based on that still of him in Community. And then he went on later then to play Miles' uncle in Homecoming. And he mentions Spider-Man Homecoming in the MCU. And he has that moment, he has a little interaction with Spider-Man, and he says, oh, I have a nephew that lives around here, referring to Miles Morales.
Yeah.
So just like it comes all full circle that he's the inspiration for Miles, and then he gets to be in kind of Miles' second it is a solo movie, he's the main character, but it's an ensemble cast. But I just thought it was great that Childish Gambino is the inspiration for it, and then now he is a part of it as well.
It's quite interesting that not only it's Donald Glover, but it's the Prowler. It's his uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Why not his father? Why not another character? Why not just another version of Miles Morales gone bad? But I like that it was the Prowler instead. It's quite interesting. Like, I think that the Prowler was like a nothing character, like the Spot was, and then what the Spider-Verse movies did is like raise it up.
Like, he was in the first one, he very much was like the secondary antagonist, but in a lot of ways a secondary antagonist can actually be scarier than the antagonist.
Yeah.
Like, Kingpin is not particularly scary, but when the Prowler was there, especially in the first one, when it's like that music kicks in, like it's dark and it's like, and you're like, oh shit, here he comes, and like he's moving in the darkness, like he is scary, and so it's cool. It's cool to see him as well and
then in the end, like I said, the graphic novelness of his uncle sitting in the dark. This is just before the Miles Morales Prowler comes out to knock him out. I'm telling you, it's so. This movie's great.
It's well crafted.
Yeah, I'm glad they put they took the time to do it. You know, it's funny. Did Lord Miller ever produce, write, direct a bad movie?
I don't know. I know that they obviously did the Lego Movie, and then they started working on Solo, but then were removed from Solo. They did a TV show called The Last Man on Earth. I really liked that. But I couldn't name anything else that they've done that.
Well, Cloudy, Chance and Meatballs, they were in charge of that. So the point I'm trying to make is, was it right to remove them from Solo just because?
What could we have gotten?
What just because? Yes, it was not the movie they agreed to make, but was it better? Mm-hmm. Maybe, because the writer of Solo, Kasdan, I think, was not liking what they were doing. But, you know, they're like different age generations, so maybe he just couldn't get it. And he went to whinge and bitch to Kathleen Kennedy, who's really not really done that much more better of a job in Star Wars these days. You know, it's like, maybe they're just not ready for that. Mm-hmm. You know, Star Wars can lend itself to a lot of things, but maybe it should be maintained to a certain specialness. Mm-hmm. But that's enough of Star Wars. We're talking about Spider-Man. And I think we're done talking.
Yeah. I had a great chat. I thought that I'm excited to see the movie again.
This third movie for next year is my third anticipated movie for next year.
Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Good title. I like that. I like to just add that, you know, it's like this movie, they didn't really have a battle scene in the climactic event. You said it's like not having a lightsaber fight at the end of the Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it's like the final battle between Miles and all the spider people. It's like after that there's like maybe 30-40 minutes between that and the end.
30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think this is very much intended to be watched as part one, and then the next one to be part two, and you'd nearly watch them together. Yeah, and that's one complete story.
Yes, essentially so. And I don't think the Spot is the main villain anymore. I think he's someone who needs to be rescued. I think
he'll be saved. I think he'll be saved, hopefully.
And I don't know. So now I'm thinking maybe the Prowler will be the villain in the next one. Miles Morales.
Miles is Prowler.
Do you know that's not actually voiced by the same voice actor?
Is it not? No, I was wondering.
It's a different guy. Seems Jarrell Jerome. He got his star in When They See Us in Netflix, the 4-part thing. So yeah, I thought it was interesting.
He had a bit more of an accent because obviously he's raised by his mother.
Yeah.
So he probably does speak a lot more Spanish.
Yeah.
So he did have a bit of an accent to him, alright.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting as is.
I think we'll wrap it up there. So Brian, thanks so much for coming over to chat into the across the Spider-Verse, excuse me.
Yeah, man, get your facts right.
Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you listened the whole way through, fair play to you, and we'll give you an award. But if you could
please give us 5 stars. We do need it. If you have any questions, do send us a Talking Pictures podcast at gmail.com.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram, on Twitter at Talking Pictures Pod. Make sure to tell all your friends. Just run into them and say, have you listened to the newest episode of Talking Pictures?
Yeah, like look, we're talking about something quite big every week. If you're curious just to get a second opinion that maybe your friends don't really get talking to, maybe you can get some opinions here. Got any questions? Got any inputs? Just send us away. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a bit of a social conversation now. Okay, give us a good talk.
Thanks, Brian.
David, thanks.